Hello, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm Sister Cecilia Joy, a Franciscan sister Christian charity, and we're here today with Timothy Schmalz, who is a famous artist. He has done a lot of work around the world. He just amazing work. His work mostly centers on glorifying Christ, and he's even working on a new monument, which we'll talk about soon. But Timothy, talk about your journey about being an artist.
Well, it's fascinating because at the age of 14, 15, I decided I wanted to be an artist. I was just absolutely amazed by it. It was one sculpture I did, which ironically was kind of out of Dante's Divine Comedy. It was like this demon creature that was coming out of a wall, like a dream or something like that. But at that moment in time, I absolutely loved the idea of sculpture. And it was really sculpture that intrigued me. And there was something about it. I think it was the permanence of it that I love, that you can create something and it's there, unlike a song where it just disappears. A piece of artwork takes on this presence. So I just started to obsessively do artwork at the age of 16, and really I haven't stopped since.
Wow. And yeah, you mentioned you've been an artist for 25 years, so that's incredible. That's an incredible legacy to have. What inspires your work? We mentioned that Christ inspires your work, but you also done work for firefighters, veterans, Alzheimer's, a lot of other different causes. So
all of those, the latter ones you mentioned are the margins. The center is Christianity. And I went through, I would have to say, an artistic conversion when I was at the age of 19. It coincided with my dropping out of art school. I was frustrated with the approach to artwork that was presented to me as a student, and I was really upset about the mainstream artwork that I saw all around me. I felt it was lacking substance, it was lacking meaning, and most importantly, it was lacking meaning. And so, in a sense, I dropped out of art school and I created a new studio for myself. It was a studio where my masters were the great masters. And I looked at the Renaissance, I looked at Michelangelo, Bernini, all these sculptors that intrigued me and I fell in love with when I was at early teenager. And I realized that the subject matter is very important. And the perfect analogy I give is the Last Supper, for instance. If you could took the same skill, the same ceiling, but made it a picnic in France, it would be unexciting. It wouldn't last the test of time. Like the Michelangelo's Pieta, same marble, same skill, but if it was prancing poodle, it would become ludicrous. The idea of artwork is only as good as what it represents. And so I like to say that artwork is the skin, the surface that covers an important, meaningful idea. And if the idea is important and meaningful enough, then the skin should be as thin as possible so you can see that idea and nothing will get in the way. So I rejected the idea of developing a style. Oh, you have to develop your own style. Forget it. You have to develop what is important, and that is the subject matter. And the most important subject matter, being a Christian, but even if I wasn't a Christian, I have to say it's the eternal ideas of existence. It's the idea of God. It's the idea of surpassing this material world. And that's so Christianity, Catholicism is my source and my endless well for my creativity. Oftentimes I think if I didn't have that, I definitely would not be an artist, because it's a grueling process to do art 15 hours a day and consistently for actually 32 years, consistently working at that schedule and that intensity. The only thing that really sustains me is the hope that I might touch that beauty and that perfection of God and bring it down to people so they can experience it.
I never thought about a sculptor, working 15 hours a day. That does have to be a lot.
It really is. And when you're dealing with sculpture, and what you have to kind of drop first of all is the value of your own time, ironically, because the moment you start taking your time precious is a moment you're editing the possibilities of some great spiritual eureka moments that you don't necessarily know. Your candle always has to be lit. You always have to be aware. And that's through the practice, the repetition. I remember I was doing the human trafficking sculpture, a really beautiful sculpture. I initially started out with one idea, and I had this model that I spent 3 weeks doing it. And then I said, as I was working on this, at night I would learn more about human trafficking. I'd research it, and it became so heavy to me. And one day when I was at my studio, I said to myself, they're sucking our children underground. And that's the only way I could describe what's happening in the world today, is that their children are being sucked underground. I thought of the Pied Piper story, where the piper wasn't paid. He opened up the ground, played his pipe, and the children disappeared under the ground. And that imagery from that Browning poem and that grim tale just stuck with me as I was sculpting a completely other concept. And then I thought, to have the children, to have Saint Paquita lifting up the ground and having the modern day slaves become free and being opened up and see the daylight, I thought the image of that was just so powerful. But here I was doing another sculpture. I already invested like 2 weeks into it. And so I was like, well, this one's not bad. And I knew that the best one was in my heart. I just had it, but I kept on working for about a day. And then I said to my mind, if I keep working on this piece, I'm going to rob the world of the better piece. So I pushed the sculpture down. I destroyed it. I had to. I couldn't just move it over there because I'd be tempted to bring it back. But I had to say, those 2 weeks are worth nothing. I'm going to throw it down, destroy it, stomp on it, and start the real one. And that's what it is being an artist. You have to be open to the surprises that God brings to you. And you have to think your time is cheap. And those two things really, really work together quite well.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned this piece. Do you have any other like favorite pieces that you've worked on in the past?
Well, I have to say that my Matthew 25 series, that is, it started out actually, part of my practice is making sculpture prayer as much as possible. And I oftentimes think that we have a very parochial way of praying. Praying is like this, and that's it, right? Or using the rosary. Well, I think that with me, my rosary beads in a sense are my clay. And so for probably around 10 years or so, on Good Friday, I stop everything I'm doing in my studio, actually more than 10 years, like 15 years. And I take the Easter period to actually do a new sculpture of Jesus. And I have my own ritual. I say that obviously, there's probably 10 Jesus going on in my studio at any time. It's cheating if I just continue to work on a Station of the Cross or something, right? So I got to start something new, and I can't necessarily think of what's going to happen or what it's going to be. I can just have a general idea.